Hello and welcome to This Time Africa. We are back in the studios of Africa Today, and we are on session 2, looking at the democratic state of Africa. And with me in the studio, I have great minds. I have Chief Sir Pombo from Sierra Leone, and he's the president of Kono Union in Sierra Leone. Welcome to the show. And I also have Frank Joctin, who is from Gabon, and he is a human rights activist. Welcome to the show. And again, I have Jean-Claude Zamba, who is also from Gabon, representing the Gabonese diaspora in the United States of America. Welcome to the show, gentlemen. Let's get straight to it. Is Africa's democracy going backwards? Is it a defective democracy? What do you think?
If I may, Africa's democracy is not going backward. From my perspective, I think we are beginning to finally crack the democratic nuts. Since independence, we've been struggling to find our footing in the halls of democracy. So I want to believe that we're not going backward, we are moving forward. If you look at developments in Africa these days, you see that some amount of changes are beginning to bear fruit. Remember, democracy in the Western world did not just flourish in one day. It took forever for them to even start to have a constructive pattern of governing themselves. So we're only 50 years pretty much since independence, 50 or 60 years, depending on what country. So I think we're making progress.
We are making progress. Is that right, Frank?
Yes, I think we are making progress, but I do think also that we need to have a democracy that is sensitive to who we are. So I don't think we need to copy just to copy other countries, but we need to adapt our democracy to our realities. And like I said, democracy is the power to the people. So I think if we truly want to strive in democracy, we need to focus on our people. What do our people want? And when we figure out as a society what the people, the majority of the people want, and we apply, we put rules and we put laws in order to accommodate the people, then I believe we have a democracy.
All right.
To the question, I believe that we are back on where we need to be. I believe that we have not moved backwards. When you're looking at out of the world 10 fastest growing economies, 7 are in Africa. We're looking at a population of 1.2 billion in Africa, surpassing, the second continent in terms of population. There is no way that Africa could afford moving backward in terms of democracy. Now, we just have to have a democracy that works for us. We are a continent of generations of kings and queens and princes. How was it done before? It was done before, it was working before. If you're looking at China, China has its own way of doing their democracy. You're looking at a two-party, two-system, one country, Hong Kong, main China. They're working. You're looking at the UK. They have a queen. Is that democracy? Well, again, it depends. They have a prime minister, okay, but there's a king, right? So we have places where it's working very well. We have a few places where it's probably, going through some issues. But I think at the end of the day, when we're looking at the state of democracy in Africa today, we could see that people see more that institutions are better than focusing on people.
You wanted to add something?
Yeah, I don't really think democracy is our problem. Let's be honest with each other. It's the corruption.
All right.
The corruption is what makes democracy stink in Africa. Because it's a simple concept.
How so? Tell us a little bit more.
You elect me to parliament. I'm supposed to represent this group of people, right? And accountable to them. But instead of me being accountable to them, I'm accountable to the party that I'm loyal to.
Or your ethnic?
No, it's a party.
It's a party.
It's not, look, African democracy is political democracy. They are all aligned to their party, not to the even ethnic community,
okay,
but their people, yeah, but the party. So if we can find a way to break that circle, to let the people, if we can break corruption out of politics completely in Africa, I think we can get ahead of democracy. It's very simple. It's a one-on-one vote. I think every community should have that system, one vote, no matter whichever way you want to put it. But we should fight corruption. Corruption is what makes democracy stink in Africa.
Corruption is what makes democracy stinks, and also corruption is what? The reason why we're here today. In the last session, we were talking about corruption and the institutions that should be responsible as far as political accountability and all that. And I know that you were listening to us. What are your thoughts on that?
Yes, I think, again, like we said, like democracy can strive when you focus on the people. Corruption is not focusing on the people, it's focusing on self, and that's the problem. So I think the African people, we need to go back to our values, where we were realizing that the welfare of one is the welfare of all. And the problem is that now, which is actually our African people in general, we are not individualistic people, but we're more a community-oriented people. So I think what we need to be focusing on is what the majority of us want. When we figure out what the majority of us want, we implement that, then we have a democracy, and then we can get rid of corruption. I also think that corruption is thriving in Africa because we have weak institutions. Like the gentleman next to me was saying, is that people are more giving their allegiance to parties instead of to ideal values. And I think that we need to change that. We need to put more values on what make a nation great, what make a people great. And what makes us great is, integrity, is honesty. And if we uphold all those things, then I believe that corruption will have less and less grip on our countries.
All right. Jean?
I'm more than agree with this. If you look back 100 years ago, we did not have any particular issue with pollution or environment issues. People knew how to take care of the environment and take care of themselves. When I look back at one of the war that Nigeria, or the Fulani people had in Nigeria against the British, they were able to actually put forward 40,000 men strong to fight. That meant that they had to feed those people.
Yeah.
That means that the people that stayed back also had to be fed. That means we were organized. So, but organized is based on what we call a participative democracy. Participative democracy means that everybody participates. Nobody is left out. Nobody is going to feel like my vote doesn't count.
And the people listen to their chiefs, like we said earlier on. They listen to their chiefs, they listen to their sub-chiefs, their town clerks. Everybody was accountable to them. And those people were also accountable to their people.
And today's systems, what they're using to kind of build that corruption is, who is your loyalty to? Here in America, you go to a senator office, the first thing they're going to ask you is, are you part of my district? Why? Because they know you have the power to elect or take them out. In some of these particular governments, it is the party that makes it to become a senator or an elected official. The people are used as puppets, but there is a change in the numbers, and we say you're the winner. So until we let the real people who matters be the people that we're serving, we're not going anywhere.
We're not going to, and it's a mindset. And then in the earlier session, we were talking about, I think something came up about the African Union. And I'm saying this because it's one of the institutions that should be governing us. And in its constitutive act of 2000, the African Union pledges determination to take up challenges that affect the continent as far as social or economic or even political challenges. Do we think that the African Union is doing enough? Are they playing their role? What are your thoughts on that, gentlemen?
If I could kind of start on that one, I believe that the African Union, the AU, is a new institution, is a young institution.
Okay.
We might say that the African Union is 19-year-old. So a 19-year-old today probably would have done some great things. But I think a few things need to be changed among the African Union. One is the African Union is dependent a lot in funding from outside. And I know through Mr. Paul Kagame, through his one-year tenure, he was trying to actually reduce the fact that most of the funding was coming from outside. I mean, it's really unacceptable that because an ambassador would say something about a foreign country, that they would lose their position. We believe that the African Union should be funded majorly by Africans and by the diaspora. When looking at the remittances are actually surpassing even direct investment in those countries. 2018, the remittances were about $529 billion. Direct investment were $344 billion. We believe that the African Union leadership need to listen to the diaspora. And if they need some type of funding, we could work with the African Union in helping them fund certain projects to a point that we want accountability. We want to know how is that money being spent.
And our projects, right, Frank? What do you think?
Yeah, I think that Jean-Claude Zama is absolutely right. It's inconceivable that the one who financed African Union is Europe. So therefore, if Europe is investing in African Union, I mean, Europe is going to first serve its own interest
yes,
before it serve our interest. And I always believe that, when people decide things, even if it's for me, if I'm not there, then it's against me. I need to be there in order to speak of what I need. And I think that the African Union, in order to strive, I think they need to go back to the majority of the African people instead of focusing on government. Because, unfortunately, I speak especially for Gabon, for example, we have a government who doesn't really care for its people. So therefore, if African Union is relying on my government, then what's going to happen is that they're going to make decisions that are not for me, but against me. Why? Because I'm not represented, and my government is represented, but my government doesn't serve my interest.
Does not serve your interest, that's right.
That's
And so I know you wanted to...
Yeah, coming to that, let's just step 5 steps back. Accountability starts with the people. We had a government in my country, in Sierra Leone, that the political system was so bad that it is the party that nominates and elects, the party selects, nominates and elects your parliamentarian. So that parliamentarian is accountable to the party, not the people. So that dynamic have to change. So it should be a reverse. The people have to elect their own representative. When that accountability starts right there, then it will go all the way to African Union, because we're going to elect a president that is accountable to us. So in other words, he's going with our mandate, our voice to the African Union. If we tell him that if you go to African Union, this is our agenda for Africa, for Sierra Leone and for Africa, I think that's what he's going to take with him, because if he doesn't take it with him, we're going to take him out of office next time. So let's start with clean politics. You call it African democracy, but let's go back and let the people have the voice in selecting their own leaders.
And to piggyback on that, I think the African the diaspora should have the right to choose who's going to be representing them at the AU embassies. Not necessarily having some other people kind of deciding. We should be able to also select who we want as ambassadors in wherever we are.
How are the appointments made, though, and I think I've just raised around, are the appointments made from, like governing bodies, or just for those who don't understand, the appointments to the AU,
Well, I don't necessarily understand the working of the African Union Commission, but I believe that the African Union Commission is the one responsible to doing the nomination about who's going to be ambassador representing in the different countries.
Okay, yes, Frank Jonte, you wanted to add a voice?
Yes, we need to focus on the people. And the other thing that I wanted to say is one of our difficulties is not too much that our people are not mature yet. I don't think so. They are very mature. But there is also forces outside of Africa who interfere with the political system of Africans. Like, for example, because I'm from a part of the world who was colonized by the French are very intertwined in everything that we do in Africa, in Gabon in particular. And I think that French need to understand that when she gave the independence in 1960, that was supposed to be it.
It's supposed to be a total independence. That's what we're talking about. In order for us to enjoy and so that democracy can thrive, we need total independence from our masters. We'll be right back. We're talking about democratic states of Africa.
want to promote your business? Do you want to talk about your nonprofit organization? Do you want to talk about your culture? Introducing the online web TV, Africa Today. We are live every Sunday at 3 p.m. Our shows are 3 p.m. Sunday Guest with Elaine Pierre. 4 p.m. This Time Africa with San Natilda Banga. 5 p.m. Transformation Point with Dr. Natalie Kamsudomo. 5:30 Cyber Connect with Jean Bosco Fogham. You can watch us live at the same time on 4 platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and using the Africa Today app. Download our app today for Android or Apple. Promote your business today. For more information, go to www.africtoday.com. Africa Today, the best of digital TV.
We are back in the studios. Today we're discussing the state of democracy in Africa. And again, I have with me Chief Sapambo from Sierra Leone, Frank Joctain from Gabon, and Jean-Claude Zamba also from Gabon. All right. So has the justice system been corrupted in Africa?
Justice systems, I believe, have been corrupted first by making sure that the legal system that was put in place by the indigenous was put aside, and then bringing a type of system where it was first the Europeans being the one overseeing it and decide on things that would be in favor of them. So removing the legal system that was already in place, because one thing not to forget is we had our own legal system.
Yes.
And that was working very well. But then why changing that, where it was changed to benefit the colonial master? Right? So when you look at some of the things that happened, let's say in Cameroon, with where we have thousands of people that were killed because they were trying to keep their independence. When you look at what the King of Belgium did in DRC, where over 3 million Congolese were killed because they did not want to abide by this colonial master. So was there a justice system that could have taken Belgium or the king to court? Well, up to today, no. But in our own legal system, he would have been taken to court. So I think this is the first way that they've actually kind of corrupted that so that it would actually work for them.
Oh, okay. Do you think so, sir?
Well, I mean, I think, yes, our system has been corrupted.
Okay.
I do support my brother's analysis, because, I mean, if you go back deep down to the village system, they don't have, I mean, the system works very right now. If you commit a crime, you go through the process, and then they try you, and then they levy punishment accordingly. So it is working. In the earlier segment, we're talking about system. People, if you steal a pen or steal somebody's cocoa or somebody's whatever it is, steal, fowl or chicken or cow, once you're caught, they bring you to the system. They try you and then they punish you accordingly. So the system works in Africa.
It works, yeah.
You can call it whatever you want to call it, but it works. And I think we should look at that model and go see how, that's all democracy. What works for us should be our own democracy.
So what should the civil society, Frank, you are a human rights activist, what should the civil society be doing actively to engage in these processes?
First of all, we need to realize that our judicial system, it's used by the people in power. So they make sure that they put the people that they want in those positions of power, and so there is a strong ties with them. So we know that justice is supposed to be blind. Unfortunately, because of those corrupt government, justice is not blind, because government influence the system. So I think what civil society needs to do is to empower the people again first of all, we need to tell our stories, and justices are being done to us. I think that Africans need to be a better job in telling those stories.
Correct.
I don't care how painful they are, but we need to tell our story, not only in Africa, but to anybody who wants to listen to them, because injustice is somewhere, is injustice everywhere, like Dr. King was said. So civil society need to encourage Africans not to remain silent, but to speak out. And of course, Africans need to meet other Africans who were victims of the same injustices and try to come together and put pressure where pressure needs to be put up.
I think that's why a show like this is, where we're all from different parts of the world and we can talk about it. So Jean-Claude, just to add to what Frank Joctain is saying, the civil society, we are here in the diaspora. What should we be doing to influence that?
I think Africa has a great opportunity. And that great opportunity for me lies into two things outside of Africa. One is the children of Africa who actually have immigrated, or some of them are living in exile, and the media. These are the two strong assets that Africa has today. When we see how things now that happen in certain countries immediately is being aired in social media, and people start talking about it, because before we did not have that. If you go back into the Biafra War in Nigeria, 1964, what happened for the world to react was because some journalists took the dangerous job of a great journalist to go underground and get pictures. And as those pictures aired, then the world woke up to the injustices going on there.
That's
the
right.
same thing happened in Belgium under King Leopold too, when those atrocity was going on in DRC. So the media is the fourth power. And I think we need to use that as a way to communicate what we are about, our values. That
Do the governments in Africa see the media as as a threat or as their friend to help them run their cause?
they see independent media as a threat.
Okay.
The media that are government funded, they don't see as a threat. They see it as a tool for the propaganda. So today it's because of the failure sometimes of the government and the opposition that we see a rise of civil society. I mean, even in a country like the US, I mean, where you have the three independent bodies, you still see how civil society organizations, how people really take the matter of liberty into their own hands.
Is that so, sir?
Well, the danger about civil society is if they are just, if they are doing their job independently, they are an asset. But when you turn that around to favor either an ethnic group or a political party or anybody you admire, when you side only on one side, then you become a danger to the community. Our role in diaspora, I think we should be looking at people's civil society in Africa that are doing a good job, and let's support them. If we do that, let them do their work properly. Let them produce material that is uncontroversial, that is authentic, and that can speak to the issues. If we can do that, I think it would help them go a long way. But I said civil society is an asset if it is working properly. Otherwise, if it is used by the party or the government in power, it becomes an issue. You know, from Sierra Leone, we have them. They put pictures on WhatsApp. They force pictures every day. We have to fight very hard to authenticate them. Then we put out a message say this is fake news. It's not true.
Yeah. All right. So I've not heard anybody talk about the money people getting paid, even as journalists and other people, to silence, to put the mute button on the mouths of journalists, or to put the mute button on activists like you. Frank.
Yeah, I mean, it does exist. Is that I believe that there is like an opposition for the government and opposition to the government. Like there is a civil society for the government and against the government. And of course, there's also activists for the government and against the government. So that's why I said that what is important for us as African people is that we need to realize that we are a people of values. What made Africa great and what inspired the rest of the world when they encounter Africa for the first time is our value system.
Yes.
And I think we need to go back there. We need to go back to our value system, respecting elders, respecting orders, and we need really to exemplify our values. And I think right now, because we're trying to be everybody else but ourselves, that's why we are losing ground, actually. And I think it's good for us now to rediscover ourselves, who we are as an African. I cannot be a better European than an European because I'm not an European. I'm an African. So I can be the best African I can be if I can connect with my history, I can connect with my ancestor, I can connect with my culture.
All right, connecting with the culture. Jean-Claude?
Absolutely. I mean, I just read an article a few days ago about a lady talking about why people are appalled that she's giving to her children African names and she lives in France. And she said, well...
are you serious? Or
yes, serious.
Okay.
And one thing that she said in her op-ed was, well, would you say the same thing to somebody who's French but of a Chinese origin? I think the culture, the value system is what defines you. Look at what happened when slaves were brought in this country. What was the first thing that was done? Change your name, change your culture. As your name and culture and where you're from or where you, because that's where you draw your strength.
Yeah.
Right? So unless you go back, I mean, we have a value system which is probably as old as kings and queens in China. We have, I mean, look at even something that Mrs. Clinton said. It takes a village to raise a child. We hear that a lot in Africa. Right? So until we go back...
Not only that we hear it, but it happens.
We invented that.
We invented it.
It is ours.
Right? So I think the key is we want to see more of a situation where we're able to connect with our own, where we're coming from, because only from there we'll be able to launch into what we need to be in this world, because Africa has its place in this world.
Go ahead.
Touching on the name issue, when I was raised Catholic. When you're Catholic, when they baptize you, they change your name. If you hear my name is Sa, it's a typical name from the Kizi tribe.
Firstborn
son. I refused to accept the Catholic name. I told them, call me Sa, but don't call me Kevin. I'm not Kevin. My name is Kolat. I took my own African name, so everything I have on me, if you come from my tribe, you hear my name, you know exactly who I am. You know exactly this now where he's from. It's from the Kizi tribe in this country. So name is very important. Our culture is very important. So I think, in fact, to even beat democracy is to begin to go back to our culture first. Appreciate who you are first, and then others will appreciate you.
To beat democracy, you have to go back to your roots, and that means you have to go back to who you are and who you feel from the inside. I've been speaking with Sir Pombo, Frank Joctain, and Jean-Claude, also from Gabon, and we've been talking about the state of democracy in Africa. Now you know what to do. We're bringing the curtain down. We'll be back again very soon with the third session of this conversation, but you know what to do. Go to www.africtoday.com. Also watch us on Twitter or go to Facebook. And of course, our show is aired on Sundays at 4 p.m. All right, we'll be right back.
Good, thank you.